I invited Carmine Ramazio, who's the host of the Innovator Insider. Did I get that right?
Yes, the Innovator Insider.
All right. And so we're going to talk about some stuff, stocks, investments, meme stocks, which I think that'd be kind of fun. Carmine, that's kind of where we were about to get started. And I thought, well, that's a great place to get started. So I just went ahead and hit record. So
unknown caller.
So let's go ahead and let's talk about first of all, describe to the audience what this whole meme stock deal is, and then just kind of take it from there. I know that everybody probably GameStop is what people will remember most about meme stocks, but kind of take us through that.
Yeah, so it all kind of started with GameStop back in 2020, 2021. It was mostly the end of 2020 going through 2021, and it all started with a guy named Keith Gill, and Roaring Kitty is his YouTube handle, and then on Reddit he went by Deep Value. And what he did essentially was just talked about GameStop and why he liked the stock, and he thought it was undervalued. And I guess it just kind of caught wind slowly within Reddit, and it started to blow up super quickly, and everyone started buying it. And then it became this whole thing of going against the hedge funds or the big guys. And this led to the whole diamond hands, hold, buy. It was just a whole, scenario of things. And eventually, the stock jumped up to $350 a share, and it was, I think, trading at like almost $4 or $5 a share.
Yeah,
I remember looking at it when it was only like $2 a share, and GameStop is a dying company, but somehow they managed to make it survive when it just should not have. And then, fast forward to today in 2024, Keith Gill, who's been, disappeared after his Congress hearings, and it's been 3 years, and then he tweets out a picture or a meme, and it blows up, and all of a sudden you're watching GameStop go from, $16 a share again, all the way up to $61. And I think it maxed out closer to 70, which is absolutely, crazy to me, because it just jumped from nothing to making a Fortune 500 company again.
Yeah.
And then it started to drop again, went down to $18 a share. And then just recently this weekend on Sunday, he tweeted a picture of his holding position on it and the options calls. And it was valued in, I believe, when he tweeted the picture, it was around $500 million. So he turned it from 2021, when he only had 50 grand, into 500 million. And then as of recently, when he did a stream today on 6/7, so today's stream, it was the first time he streamed in 3 years. And it wasn't like anything special, kind of just had GameStop up in the background and then showed his position again and talked on it. And today alone, he's lost $237 million, but he's still up 170 million as of right now, as 2024. That's definitely been a wild ride.
That's insane. And so if I understand the story correctly, wasn't it like most of the big hedge funds and those that he was kind of pissed off at, I guess, or whatever, they were shorting the stock, right? They were ready to dump GameStop. Am I correct on that? And so what he did was he came out, and what was the genesis of it? Was it because he was just wanting to fight the big guys, or because he actually thought there was inherent value in GameStop and wanted to prove it by making sure that these hedge funds didn't take the stock down? I mean, what was his original motive that he said?
Yeah, so he thought there was actual value in GameStop. And as he said in his stream today, this had nothing to do with going against the hedge funds. Mm-hmm. He's never really said that. It's just kind of a known thing within the meme stock community, but he's never actually said it's against hedge funds. He's always thought there's true value in GameStop, and he still believes that there's value in GameStop today. And he believes that people are just supporting GameStop because we all grew up with this, where, you bought all your video games, back then, 2008, 2012, it was huge. Everyone went to GameStop for all the big releases. But he definitely thinks that there's actual value in GameStop, when in reality, I truly don't believe there is. But all the hedge funds, saw that GameStop was a dying company. Nobody buys physical games anymore. Everyone's buying digital. And, he just thought there was true value to it. He never really said, we're going against the big guys. It kind of just happened.
All right. So whenever we talk about meme stocks, all right. So what does that mean? What just for for people that came to the Jason Wright show to hear about health and wellness, entrepreneurship, or something else, we just roll up with GameStop and puts and calls and all this good stuff. What is a meme stock?
Yeah, so essentially a meme stock's basically, I mean, if you know what a meme is, it's usually just a joke about something. And they call them meme, which I think is funny. It's just because it's not really like a meme, but they made it into one.
Yeah.
It's taking something that really shouldn't have value or anything to do with it and making it so that the normal retail investor gains a lot of money off of it. And it's just kind of a joke. It's kind of like a screw the system moment. And they did it with GameStop, AMC. The newest one right now is Faraday Futures Intelligence. It's FFIE. There's just a bunch of them. I mean, they're talking about Bed Bath & Beyond being a meme stock now. So the list is just growing. It's usually just a bunch of dying companies, and people just reinvest into them and make them skyrocket again when they have no true value anymore.
So now we've got probably like a bunch of college girls and housewives wanting to jump out there and say Bed Bath & Beyond because they want their kitschy stuff. They want their loofahs and all those awesome things that Bed Bath & Beyond has. And so they're going to go out there and try to see if it catches fire. Now, whenever you try to, like, if you think that you're going to try to use this method to save a company, do you think that it's kind of almost like hoping a video will go viral or something, that it will gain traction? Do you think there's a lot of people out there trying to save stocks that for nostalgic reasons or whatever, and they just kind of fall flat? But then for some reason, something like GameStop or when he says it just happens to catch fire. I mean, is that what's going on?
Yeah, that's how I would describe it, because GameStop is such a massive corporation and it has been around for a long time. And a lot of people that are investing in meme stocks are about, my age at 23 years old. And they truly, grew up with this company. So for them, it's worth investing into that meme stock for fun. But I've also been seeing a lot of people post about random ticket symbols. I don't even know what the stock is, never seen of it, never heard of it. Like, it's just, I don't know anything about it, but they're trying to create a ton of meme stocks and trying to pump things up. When in reality, I feel like the only two meme stocks that will ever exist are going to be GameStop and AMC, just because those are the first two. And everybody truly does know what those companies are. But, FFIE was at $2.30 and it's back down to 60 cents. So it was a failure of a meme stock. But I would say that's probably the third most popular one right now.
So Keith Gill wasn't actually accused of doing anything illegal, though, right?
No, he wasn't. Him and his lawyers obviously made a statement and talked about he just liked the stock. It wasn't really anything to do with stock manipulation or going against the hedge funds and stuff like that, because that's what they were trying to get him for. Mostly was stock manipulation, mm-hmm. But they just can't find anything that he said, buy. It wasn't like, anything like that. He just spoke on a reason and opinion that he thought made GameStop good.
So if you will recall, part of your cinematic education that you received from me was to watch Wall Street, which I had you held captive for a day and sat you on my couch and made you watch and introduce you to Bud Fox and Gordon Gekko. And if you will remember, the illegal way of doing that was actually illustrated in Wall Street. And everyone from my generation who watched Wall Street, which was almost everyone from my generation, they know the statement, Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel. So back in the day, that's what would happen. You'd have somebody on the insider at the Wall Street Journal or something, and you call them and you give them a tip that Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel or something like that. That means a stock's about to go in play, and the guy that's either shorting it or whatever his move is, then the markets will get manipulated by those tips. But this is kind of amazing that from my generation to yours, that now, you can just get on X or Instagram or whatever, and you can start moving markets in a profound way, which the whole democratization of investing has been incredible to watch. I mean, dude, I remember SureTrade.com was my very first online trading account. And it's not even, it's gone from SureTrade to E-Trade to now I think Schwab or someone else, or maybe Morgan Stanley owns them now. But I mean, I was like, it was revolutionary when all of a sudden, you could sit at your desk and you could actually trade stocks on your own. And I was an early adopter. But before that, I remember back in the day when this could have never happened simply because I used to have to call my broker up in Sulphur Springs, Texas, and ask for a stock trade, an execution of a buy or a sell. And so essentially that took the small time day trader or whatever completely out of the game. Now you combine social media with a stock that somebody's got some sort of nostalgic love for, and you can move markets against the big players. It's kind of insane, man.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, we can trade instantly within seconds with just, the touch of a button now. And obviously we still have stock manipulation in today's world. It's just now in the form of, social media.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's talk about your podcast there, Mr. Big Time Podcaster, Mr. Big Fancy Pants, you and your big new show, the Innovator Insider. So what can your listeners expect from you on the Innovator Insider?
Yeah, so I have 3 episodes every week, and each one is completely different. They just covered a variety of different things. So on Mondays, I like to call it Finance Monday. So I'll be talking about the most recent stocks, any stocks that are upcoming for the week that should probably move really high or go down really low. So I obviously did an episode completely on meme stocks already, just because when I did that episode, it was blowing up. We just saw GameStop go up to $60 a share. FFIE was at its highest peak. AMC was at $12 a share. So, I was just talking on things like that on Mondays. Definitely want to dive more into my opinions on certain companies, especially ones like Meta, Google, and NVIDIA recently, just because obviously NVIDIA is now the second largest company in the world. Or I believe it just fell down the third, because today Apple went up a little bit, making it the second largest again. So there's a battle for that second spot right now, closing in on Microsoft as well. So that's probably that's going to be my Monday episode, is actually talking about NVIDIA becoming possibly the largest company in the world with at the end of the year. So, but it's just going to cover a different variety of things on Mondays. Coming up onto Wednesdays, I'm going to do Real Estate Wednesday. So I just want to talk about things that are happening within real estate. And those are going to be my shortest episodes, around 15 minutes, I would believe. Some might extend out to 20 minutes, but I'm going to try to keep those kind of short and just talk about what's the most recent news in real estate. Is anything happening with, have insanely high interest rate? So I just want to talk about that and see if any news is going to be coming up on it or anything like that. So those are going to be super short episodes, but just discuss anything really going on currently. And then Fridays are my favorite episode, honestly, because that's going to actually be my first time ever having a guest. So it's going to be Entrepreneurship Friday, where I bring on an entrepreneur who owned a business, or maybe had a business that completely failed, or they just want to talk about their company in general. But I'm just going to ask them some questions and let them do most of the talking on that episode, so people can learn from other business owners and then walk away with some information or knowledge that they might not have known. Or, maybe if they saw how somebody failed, then they can maybe avoid some of those mistakes if they're in the same industry.
Very cool. Well, that'll be exciting. We'll be listening for that. Now let's talk a little bit about NVIDIA. You brought it up, and I had texted you that I wanted to talk about this because of that. I mean, it's kind of insane what's happening at NVIDIA as far as just the massive growth. Now, the PE ratio, I haven't checked it recently, but it's pretty high, right? It's trading at a pretty high premium. So just kind of give me, and by the way, just to make sure that no lawyers or the SEC or anybody jumps on us, we're not giving any investment advice or anything like that. We're literally just talking about investments and stocks and commentary. So if anybody listening to the Jason Wright Show is dumb enough to make a trade based on anything that Carmine or I say, then good Lord, you're probably either not smart enough or something to be listening to the Jason Wright Show. But so anyway, with that disclaimer out there, so talk a little bit about NVIDIA. What do you think about how it's valued, and what do you think that, like, are you a buyer at it, and what is it trading for right now? And it just had a big split, right?
Yeah, they're splitting actually today. So at market close today, the split will actually take effect, and it's going to be 10 for 1.
Yeah,
and they're trading at right now $1,200 a share. And I am actually somebody that got lucky and bought into NVIDIA. I bought them in at around $500 a share.
Yeah.
And then somebody like my mom bought them in at $70 a share. So there's a lot of people out there that bought in super early. And I bought in only because I thought they were only going to get up to $800, a share. And I said, oh, there could be the chance that they might get to 1,000 by end of year, but they hit 1,000 way faster than I thought they were going to. And as soon as they hit 1,000, they did the 10-for-1 stock split announcement, and then it just kept going up. So it's about $1,200 a share right now, and I think it'll continue to grow. Only because if we take Tesla, for example, when they did their split back in 2019, they were trading for about the same right now. And I was actually an investor in Tesla in 2019 as well. So I was a part of both of their splits that they've had. But when they did their first split, the stock kept going up even higher. And that's what initiated their second stock split. It was very fast turnaround on them doing it. And I believe the same could happen with NVIDIA, just because when you do the split, it's going to lower the amount per share, and that'll allow more investors to come in and buy it. And everybody is talking about NVIDIA right now, especially in the AI world, because that's what's driving them right now. They're selling a ton of GPUs currently for computers, and it's just completely booming right now for them. I know that they broke their total revenue record. So I think they turned in 2024 $60.92 billion. And then I believe the net income was at around like 29.76 billion. So they're definitely seeing a huge growth, especially it's an increase of 4.3 billion from 1 year. So seeing a lot of growth. They definitely have a lot more products coming out too. That's going to drive bigger sales for them. So the more AI becomes popular, the more popular we're going to see NVIDIA get as well. Just, it's just supply and demand. The more demand there's going to be for AI, the more supply NVIDIA has for it. It's just going to be a lot for NVIDIA, I think, over the next 2 years. I don't know if they'll last. Say, Intel was up pretty high at one point and they dropped down. So I don't know if they're going to last as long as everyone thinks they're going to. But I definitely think for the next couple of years, NVIDIA is going to be playing a big role in the stock market.
So one of the things, I was listening to Scott Galloway's podcast the other day, and he was talking about NVIDIA after they first reported earnings and just kind of blew everybody out of the water. And one of the things that he said was, and I remember this from my Home Depot days, Home Depot is a bully to vendors. They basically, if Black & Decker comes into a room full of global product merchants at Home Depot, they say, here's a drill that we want to bring to market. And the global product merchants at Home Depot will say, well, here's what we want. We want that drill to do this. We want to sell at this price, and we want it produced at this date. I mean, they just bully there because they're the 800-pound gorilla. Walmart, same way. In the world of commercial AI, NVIDIA has a reputation of kind of that same thing. They're really, really high priced for their customers. And every single customer they have, this is what Scott Galloway was saying. So this isn't Jason Wright's original thought out of my head. I just happen to trust his assessment on this, is that every single one of their clients are trying to develop their own in-house solutions to essentially get away from NVIDIA as soon as they can, just because they are so freaking expensive to their enterprises. So to me, it's called, and they're spending a fortune to do it. And only the biggest companies can't afford to devote the resources they are to create some of these things in-house. However, it's going to be interesting to see as more and more of these companies roll out their own AI solutions for internal use and proprietary use, how NVIDIA stands. But I think you're right. I think that they're able to ride several things. It's kind of like the perfect storm for them. 1, AI is sexy. 2, the commercialization and figuring out how to commercialize it. 3, with high inflation, nobody knows where to put their money, so they're dumping it into the stock market. And 4, they're just looking for things that make headlines, and all the hedge funds and everybody's probably jumping into NVIDIA right now. And I think you're right. I think the regular retail investor, whenever they see a split, that's always kind of an attraction to a stock. So yeah, I think they'll, it's got some legs, but I don't know. I own it through funds. I don't own it individually. I'll tell you one of my biggest mistakes, dude, that I ever made. I don't even remember what it was called. I went to one of these seminars that Zig Ziglar was speaking at one time. You know the way they fund these seminars where you've got Zig Ziglar and all these other celebrity guests, is like all the people that get up on stage in between the big speakers trying to pitch some service. That's how they kind of cover their costs. And then because for this one, I don't even think I even had to pay to go to it. So they were charging all these people a fortune. And Phil Town, who wrote the book Rule Number One, which was a great investment book back in the day that had a formula to it that was essentially kind of the Warren Buffett way to value stocks. There was, along with that, after he spoke, they advertised some sort of, I wish I could remember what it was called. It was this kind of this program that you should subscribe to. You could subscribe to it and it would like rate these stocks based on buy, sell, or hold, or kind of give you a green. It was kind of color coded. And it would give you kind of an idea of, based on the finances, or actually I take that back. I didn't use that program to evaluate Apple. I just used Phil Town's book, Rule Number One. And I took Apple through his formula. At the time, Apple was trading, I want to say for, let's just say, I'm just guessing, man, this is probably a decade ago, almost a decade. It's trading like $500 a share. I mean, you could look it up, but I don't even know how many years ago it was. And it came out to whatever the numbers were, it should have been trading at $1,500 a share. And I didn't believe it. I thought, this is just too out of whack. There's no way that it's really worth $1,500 and only trading for whatever the heck it was at the time. Turns out it was right on the money. It ended up climbing to $1,500 from the time I did that valuation. It wasn't that long. And I was like, golly. And so it's kind of funny how when you start learning these principles of just valuation, although I don't trade individual stocks anymore. Are you doing much individual trading?
I do. I do a lot of individual trading because most of my index fund trading is through a Roth IRA. So that's more for my retirement and everything like that. But while I'm still younger, I like to, play around with it and everything like that. Would say gamble, because that's kind of how I see it. You're gambling on whether or not the company will do good or is going to fail. But for the most part, I do a lot of individual stocks.
So I just finished reading The Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway. I mentioned to him earlier. I think I mentioned it to you, and fantastic, by the way. I read that one and The Algebra of Happiness by Scott Galloway whenever Jim and I were in Hawaii. I mean, I knocked both of them out in like 4 days. They're real easy reads. They're essentially compilations of his blog, No Mercy, No Malice, which is really good. And essentially that's what he recommends people do. Now, frankly, if you're trying to build wealth, I think you'd agree with me. If you're trying to build wealth, you don't take your retirement savings and try to do day trading and individual stock investment. That said, it's an excellent way to learn if you'll take a couple grand or whatever and open up an account and do some individual trading and start to try to see how things work. Understand price to earning ratios, try to read a balance sheet, try to understand your gut instincts and to say, I don't know how this company makes money, and I'm just looking, things just don't make sense. A really great, cheap, and at the end of the day, I mean, $2,000 to truly understand how the finances of a publicly traded company work. It's a pretty good idea. So yeah, I commend you for that. Have you had much luck? Is there any of them that you've just like really killed it on that was not like a headline stock?
Oh, not a headline stock?
Yeah.
Probably not, just because I actually probably play around more with mostly headline stocks and trending ones. Mm-hmm. My biggest one was Tesla, especially because I had my student loan and the money I was supposed to get from back to use for books, supplies and everything. Mm-hmm. I said, screw it. And I actually didn't buy a single supply with any of that money. And I bought all Tesla stock. And sure enough, it worked out. I'm up over, almost $4 or $5 grand on it right now. So I would say I'm doing pretty good on it, money wise, but that one's definitely the one I've taken the biggest risk on, and it definitely worked out in my favor. Now I'm kind of just worrying with Tesla currently, is it going to hold or should I just sell and then start reinvesting somewhere else? But as of right now, I'm going to hold on Tesla. That's definitely my biggest one.
Well, there you go, American taxpayer. You're essentially co-signing so that Carmine can go out and play the market, so well done. Well, okay, buddy. So, all right. So tell me some of the things. All right. Your podcast is the Innovator Insider. So besides investing in stocks, like tell me what excites you and if you have any examples of companies that are doing some innovative things, about what does it mean to you to innovate? What is innovation? What are some of the companies you like? Why is that? Of all the topics that you could have picked to really make your kind of put your flag in the sand in, why innovation, and kind of describe what it means to you?
Without innovation, I mean, we would probably be still in the Stone Age. So innovation is in our everyday life. I mean, when you look at Ford, he innovated when, we have him as a multi-billion-dollar company today. When you look at companies like NVIDIA, they're innovating every single day with new GPUs, CPUs, anything really to drive technology forward. You have companies like Google that are also innovating with their AI, and now their AI is going to be in your hands all the time with their phones and everything like that. So companies are consistently innovating, especially my favorite company currently right now, surprisingly, and I'm not a big fan of the company itself, but I do love them as a stock. It's Meta, with Facebook and Instagram, especially because they own Oculus and they have a lot of big things coming, especially now with their Meta glasses coming out. They're focusing heavily on AI. So there's just a lot of exciting things in the future for them, especially now every business that's on social media runs through Meta pretty much. You have to have an Instagram account or Facebook account if you want to pay for advertisements and you want to grow your company. So those companies like that are kind of my favorite and why I love innovation, because without them, we would be nowhere. I mean, without innovation, we'd still be sitting around a campfire with nothing around us. But my top favorite companies right now are definitely Google, Meta, and NVIDIA. I would put those three at my favorite. There's other companies such as AMD, which I also love and I'm invested in as well. I believe that their CPUs and GPUs also have a great future ahead of them. I currently use in my computer an AMD CPU, and it's probably the best investment I ever made. I also use an NVIDIA GPU in my computer. So I'm using the two things I'm invested in. That's another part of it too, is that as a consumer, the most bought items for a computer and the future is going to be NVIDIA and AMD, just because anytime you look at somebody that's using a PC, it has one of those chips in it or GPU in it. Besides, unless you go the Windows route, then obviously you're going to get the Windows Intel chip in it, but they're not doing as hot as AMD or NVIDIA currently.
So, the first time and one of the things I love about innovation is, first of all, I think that America is the world's leader in innovation. I think that's kind of separator. If you want to know why, you can go to the other side of the world. And this is the first time I ever went to China. That was what kind of struck me, is that you touch down in, well, like if you're in Shanghai, you look around these big buildings and all of a sudden there's all these American names on these big buildings. And that is the differentiator between America and the rest of the world, is we innovate. Like, if Japan is very good at total quality management, and they mastered factory efficiency and that sort of thing. The Chinese are good at taking other people's ideas and their widgets and kind of putting them together. But it's America where all the innovation is driven. And the first time it really struck me was whenever I was in Chengdu, China, and I went to a Dell factory, and we're standing up and we're looking over this factory that Dell had put over there, and I'm watching an assembly line, and I thought, that's pretty cool. I mean, one, it's an American company, which I love, and a Texas company at that, being a Dell manufacturer, so I was really excited about that. But what really kind of just this light bulb that went off and kind of this sense of pride was you mentioned Ford, is that there's an assembly line happening there that was developed by an American over 100 years ago. And I thought that's what sets America apart and is so cool. And you're exactly right. The value is in innovation. Innovation is what makes life easier. It's what makes less people starve, more people have food, it frees up the most valuable non-renewable source that any of us have, which is time. I mean, that's innovation is what allows us to get our time back. So I like the idea of you focusing in on that. So as you look to some of the great innovators, past and present, who are some of the people that you look to that you can say, that dude was just a badass. That dude understood how to take these unrelated points, bring them together, and make something different. Who are some of your heroes in that regard?
I would definitely have to put Henry Ford at the top of the list for that one. I mean, he truly changed the way the car industry completely worked. And I don't think without him, we would be where we are with the car industry. My second list is probably very debatable to a lot of people. I'm going to put Elon Musk.
Mm.
I believe with, the electric cars, SpaceX, Neuralink, just everything he is doing right now is just above and beyond. I mean, his Neuralink is amazing. I don't know if you've ever looked into it or anything, but the person that's right now doing the human trial for it came out and said that he absolutely loves it and that without it, he felt like his life pretty much wasn't important. So I think just the way Elon Musk's doing things, innovating and changing people's lives is awesome and amazing. Another person that completely changed the industry was Jeff Bezos. He started Amazon, which was supposed to be online book shopping, and now it's your everyday life shopping right there on your phone, and it comes the same day now or within 2 days. So he completely changed the game of online shipping and online shopping in general. So definitely, I would say those three right there are my favorite innovators, especially two of them being the most recent.
Did you see the story that was going around yesterday or the day before about how some African tribe or something got hooked up through Starlink and all these guys are getting hooked on porn? Did you see that?
Yeah, I know. I saw that. They heard the elders were complaining
Yeah.
very, very hard about that, and they were not happy at all that they have Wi-Fi and that they're connected with the world now. So
Yeah, it's like it's crazy. To me, it was like a case in point of the double-edged sword that is kind of modern technology. It's so good, and then you see something like that, and you're like, oh, it opens this Pandora's box. I mean, their lives can definitely be better now that they are connected, but at the same time, I mean, it was like someone said that it was like a headline out of The Onion. It just didn't seem real. It was so crazy to see that these folks, they finally get on the internet. The first thing they do is start getting hooked on porn. Like, oh my gosh. I'm with you. The thing about Elon Musk, and also I'm reading a book. Have you read this one? Steve Schwartzman's book, What It Takes?
no, I have not.
Okay. So, he's the co-founder of Blackstone, brilliant investor. And one of his biggest pieces of advice is if you're going to set a goal, go after the most complicated thing that most people are not going after because it's too hard. Because his idea is if you'll go after really big, challenging, hard things, you're going to exercise a lot of energy trying to pursue any goal. So go ahead and go after the most complicated problem possible because you're going to have to, because you only have so many resources. And throughout his career, he talks about how there have been multiple times where he's told potential employers, I'm sorry, I can't do that because I've only got so much time and resources to devote, and I'm not going to devote it to what you're asking me to do. I'm just not going to do that. He'd tell professors that. I mean, he's obviously an outlier, but great advice in that book. And that's one of the things I love about Elon Musk is that he dares to go after just these audacious tasks and goals and ambitions. And we used to think like that back in the day, and I don't think there's much of that happening now. I'll tell you another a really good innovator is Peter Diamandis, who is the founder of the X Prize. If you want a really good book, man, read Bold. I think he wrote that with Steven Kotler, and it talks a lot about how the great innovators think and how they pursue different challenges. And that's what the X Prize is all about, which is just solving some huge, audacious problem and how you're going to do it and then how you're going to gain the resources to make it happen. And I think that's one of the things that we lack now is people that are willing. I mean, there was a time back before me or you where people, they would conceive of going to the moon and how are we going to do it? And they were ballsy and gutsy and enough to actually pursue it and did it. I mean, do you realize that, okay, so when Kennedy makes his speech at Rice University that we're going to the moon, they didn't even have the alloys developed to withstand the heat that it would require to get to the moon at that time. They didn't even have the capability to get the rockets into space with enough fuel for the guys to get home, but yet he was saying, we're doing it. And that sort of audacity is something that I think Elon Musk absolutely has. And Henry Ford, one of my favorite Henry Ford stories, Carmine, is whenever he created the V8, whenever he went
Mhm.
to his team and he told them what he wanted, and they said, "There's no way it won't fit into this block, that it can't be done." He said, "Just get it done." He came back and they kept, and it was a kind of an exercise in leadership, and he just kept coming back and coming back and said, "No, you're going to get it done." And he pushed them to the point where eventually the V8 became a reality, just because he was like, "No, I want a V8. I know it can be done. Do it. Figure it out." And there's just he's got a lot of cool management principles. Henry Ford, yeah, that's a good one. I think mine would definitely be Peter Diamandis. I love the Jeff Bezos story. I love the genius of Jeff Bezos with starting the online bookstore, just because he wanted to figure out logistics first. He wanted to figure out the ordering and how that would. He knew, and he just picked a product. It wasn't like he was some bookworm or something like that, or trying to. He wasn't trying to disrupt the retail book industry. He was literally almost using that as kind of like an experiment to try to work out the kinks with a real business before he then to create a platform that could be used for what we use Amazon today. And so, yeah, that's a pretty cool deal. All right, dude, what else do we need to cover? What else is going on in the world? Anything else you're excited about?
Honestly, I'm just been watching completely meme stocks and AI right now. I think that's the main focus everyone has with anything really going on with any major company. I know other than that, really the only big news is BlackRock potentially starting up a stock exchange in Texas.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah. Yeah, and Larry Fink's scary. He scares the hell out of me. I'll be honest with you. It's funny. So there's a picture of Larry Fink, and back whenever, because Blackstone is basically kind of came after BlackRock, and so Larry Fink and Steve Schwartzman used to be in business together. I tell you, Fink kind of makes me nervous.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of curious to see exactly what's going to happen moving forward with this, because I wonder, what the SEC is going to think of it, what FINRA is going to think of it. I feel like there's just a lot of legal issues that they're going to have to work around. I mean, we've all been stuck with the NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange now forever. So it's, you're going to have somebody come in and disrupt the markets. And it's just going to be very interesting to me to see how they plan on letting it play out or what they're going to do about it.
So one of the things I know before I let you go that I know you're passionate about is real estate. You like, so are you, what what is your flavor and what is your take on what's going on in the real estate markets with these higher interest rates? I know that as someone who invests in developments and stuff like that myself, I know that we've gone through a much harder period of capital raising because the interest rates are high enough now to where it's completely changing return models, and so it makes capital raise harder. Do you see things getting better, worse, and where should people be in the real estate space as you see it?
Right now, I could see it getting a little bit better. I wouldn't say it's going to be completely down the 2 to 3% interest rate for a house. I don't know when I'll see that again in my lifetime,
Sure.
but I definitely, probably the day I buy a house in the next 5 years, it'll, be somewhere in the ballpark, hopefully of 5 to 6%. That would make me very happy, especially just because if today I went out and tried to buy a house, they would probably turn around and tell me anywhere from 12 to 15%, especially at my age and the size of the loan I would need just to buy even a 3 bedroom house. It's just very high. And I don't think it's going to last a long time, but I also foresee with this administration right now with Biden and everything, it may last a little bit longer than we want it to.
Yeah. So what's it like being your age and thinking about the prospect of trying to buy a house? And I mean, like you're 23. I bought my first house when I was your age, which is crazy. And now it seems like most young people that I talk to that are your age, it's like they can't even get their brain around the prospect of that. So what is your strategy, and does it feel helpless or hopeless? I mean, what are people from your generation how are you processing what's going on right now?
I mean, I would say a lot of people in my generation definitely feel hopeless about it. I would say that I could feel a little hopelessness as well, just because we don't all have, 20, 30 grand stacked away. And some of us can't even afford to, stash away that much money currently right now because everything just costs way too much money. We're paying $3.60 for gas. Groceries are, way above they need to be right now. I mean, I believe I was at the grocery store the other day and two New York strips cost me $38, which I just think is absurd. It shouldn't cost that much for two New York strip steaks, especially ones that aren't even high quality. It's just, some cheap cow probably too. But I definitely would say there's a lot of hopelessness right now with my generation. I just don't think anybody has confidence in buying a home. I definitely don't have confidence in buying a home right now. I would say if I were to buy a home, it'd be closer to 30 years old. I was talking to my mom the other day and she bought her first house for $80,000. And I told her you couldn't even get a brand new Escalade with that.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
The way everything.
That's one of the things too. If I had any advice for you on finances, dude, one of the biggest wealth thieves that are out there is cars. Cars are dumb. Just always look at a car as a tool. That's all it is. Don't let the Matrix tell you that you need to drive something that you don't. But yeah, it is insane. It blows my mind here in Tyler. All these stupid $120,000 Escalades rolling up and down the road. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, especially because you're going to be paying $1,000 a month on it. And I don't think I think anything above $400 is already absurd for me. I mean, even above 200, it's already pushing it. But I just think spending that much money on a vehicle when you could be putting it away or investing in, you could make way more money than spend the money on something that gets you from point A to point B. I'd rather take a car of no AC, which I had in high school as a car of no AC down South Florida. So it never bothered me any day of the week, but I wasn't paying at all for it. It was a beat down car that was a hand-me-down. So I saved money, versus some of the kids in my school that were probably paying for a car payment that was $350 a month. And I was putting $350 a month into my pocket instead.
Dude, the first car that I drove after I graduated from college was the girl's mom. It was the car that she got when she was in high school, which was a 1990 Toyota Tercel 2-door, 4-cylinder. I barely fit in the thing, and the engine sounded like either a big fart or a boat engine. And sometimes it had this really cool feature where I'd be going down the highway and it would just shut down, just stop, engine stop, I'd float for a little while. Yeah, that was what I drove for at least like the first year or so because I refused to have a car payment. And and one thing have you ever heard of Ramit Sethi, I think's his name. I think he wrote the book. Let me look this up. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Let me see. In that. Yeah, Ramit Sethi. I can't remember. I got that. He is, obviously now Ramit has all the money he'll ever need, and he still drives something like an old Honda Accord or something like that because he's like, cars don't bring me joy. That's just not my thing. Now he'll also wear a $900 cardigan, but he's like, look, but it doesn't impact he said, this is something that means something to me. It feels good. I like it. I love to wear really nice, beautiful sweaters and nice clothes. He said, but a car I don't care about. And so I think that's important when people figure the things out that really matter. Because a lot of the crap you buy, you had to listen to me give this lecture to you whenever I held you captive the last time you were in town, is that so many people, they buy so much crap to impress a bunch of people that they don't know, and most of them they probably wouldn't like if they did know them, as opposed to just trying to figure out, what do I really need and like and want in this life, and pursuing that and really just soaking that up and having the leftover cash so that you can do it upright. So I don't know. It's I do feel bad for your generation. One of the things, I know I've mentioned him several times on this podcast, I'm really zeroing in on Scott Galloway. I mean, he's probably going to get his certificate in the mail soon that he's been inducted into my virtual mentor society, which is it's a high honor. I know that of all the things that Scott Galloway has accomplished, he's going to be like, yes, Jason Wright, I'm his virtual mentor. But he's got a lot of good things to say about what's going on, in particular with your generation, that you guys the deck is stacked against you. It's really stacked for guys like me that have made some money and that are kind of in that wealth building and adding to stage at the expense, not in some ways of your generation. There's really nothing that is setting you guys up to build true wealth at a younger age. And it's a shame. And so I want to try to be a part of the solution, but I highly recommend you start checking out. He's got 2 podcasts, the Prof G podcast, and then one that's just about the markets that I think you'll enjoy, just because where he goes and talks about stocks and investing and different things in the economy. And, it's, and his delivery is just fantastic. He's a badass. I like him a lot. He's a really smart guy. So, and he also talks a lot about young men your age and how that you and I could do a whole conversation about just the way men in this country, in particular your generation, are just kind of being left behind and being left kind of listless. And I don't know, it's a shame for me as a fellow member of the species to see what you guys are going through these days. But I think you're tackling it pretty well, so that's good.
Yeah, there's definitely hope for the future, but right now it's going to be rough for my age group moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Well, just exercise what agency you have and be the outlier, let everybody else. It's like I used to tell Rylan and Abby whenever they were growing up. I said, I don't care about what all the other kids are bitching and pissing and moaning about. If they want to cry and talk about how bad the world is or whatever, then don't worry. They can serve you French fries one day, but you're going to be on the other end of the other side of the window because you're just not going to fall into that. And I'd say they've both done pretty well.
I would agree. I mean, I've always kind of thought the same thing growing up too, is that, you can't complain about everything that you have in life, especially because we live in a capitalistic world, especially here in America. We're lucky that you can always escape the lower end of life and get to the higher part of it. Mm-hmm. It's just more of a mindset of how hard you're going to work to try to get there.
That's right. I like that. All right, brother. Well, let's get you back on here some other time. Let's just make this. I'd love to have you on again. The Innovator Insider, Carmine. I appreciate it, man. This has been fun. And where can people follow you? Where can people find the show? And if there's anything else you want to close with, floor is yours.
Well, you can go to my website. It's the innovatorinsider.com. There's no it's just innovatorinsider.com. But I post my all my services up there. I have my email up there and all my social media as well. And then I also have my podcast go straight up there every time I post as well.
Maybe there should be a Maybe I guess I'll let you have innovatorinsider.com. Maybe you're showing humility because there's Innovator Insiders, and you're not saying you're the Innovator Insider. You're just saying you're, as far as Innovator Insiders go, you're an Innovator Insider. Okay. Well, my bad for throwing that "the" in there, Tiger. Wait.
No, it's okay. I mean, my podcast name is the Innovator Insider just because it's solo for me, but in the future that the website will eventually have a team.
Okay.
So that's why I named it Innovator Insider for the website. But the podcast is going to be the Innovator Insider just because it is me as solo. But regarding the website, hopefully there's, a team one day where I can have multiple online coaching where it's not me and you one-on-one. But if you want a specific industry, then a coach can come along and teach you what you need to know about that part.
So one of the things we need to get you on here to talk about sometime too is building online stores, drop shipping, side hustles. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think people like to hear that. James Altucher used to do a Side Hustle Friday where he would talk about that very thing. And maybe, we'll do an episode on that where you can talk about some of the ventures you've had in the past and give some people some ideas, some things they might be able to do right from the comfort of their very own home and make a little bit of extra money.
I would love that. I mean, I think recently we were talking about it, but I just sold my company this past week, finally, the bid on it. So I sold for $3,000 and it was only making $88 a month. It's just more about how you market the website and it'll gain its own value.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, let's talk about that. That'd be a good deal. All right. Carmine, appreciate you, brother. Thanks folks for listening. Continue to improve always and always. He's Carmine. I'm Jason, and we are out. Well, that does it for this episode of The Jason Wright Show. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Texas Titan Media production. Fourth Wall did the music. And as always,
Thank you so much for listening. Please consider going out to jasonwrightnow.com and signing up for the Vitruvian letter. Also, please go out to iTunes. It takes like 30 seconds to just leave us a 5-star rating. It does wonders for the podcast. I would be so grateful. And with that, until we meet again, go crush it and endeavor to improve always in all ways. I'm out.